All right, Joseph. Everyone out in TV land can hear us, so I'm just letting you know. All right, you're live, big guy.
All right,
Okay,
guys.
so
Here we are. We're live. I guess we're just gonna go right into it, Adam. We'll
Yeah.
get right to this right now. All right, guys, how you doing out there? This is Joe Smith. You are live within the weeds, Prohibition Talk Radio, our live Zoom feed. We got Brandon Barberio, my co-host, chilling out in wonderful Phoenix, Arizona right now, keeping cool. And we have our special guest today, guys. Adam. He's from Alaskan Blooms, right?
Yeah.
So he's calling in from Fairbanks, Alaska today. So we're going to talk to him about everything going on in Alaska. It's been a while since we talked to somebody from Alaska. As we know, the laws are different than they are here. And there's a lot of interesting things that go on up there. So we're going to introduce him. We're going to have hopefully Thomas Markholm from Vermont Grow Coaching will be with us here shortly. He just got off of the farm. It's been a hot, busy day, I can imagine, and hopefully we'll get Timothy Fair on from Vermont Cannabis Solutions, guys. So don't go anywhere. We're going to have a great show. We'll be here for a couple hours. But now let's roll right into it. It's been a hot week. It's been a fun week. There's been some craziness going on in the cannabis industry, but right now we have Adam, and we're just kind of talking about this name we were going over. But Adam, let everybody know who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing, and what Alaskan Blooms is all about.
Yeah, so my name is Adam Hoover. So on the green screen there, you'll see it says Adman Houvre. That's my fake name because my Facebook got banned, so I had to make a new one. But it's got half my name right. But yeah, my real name is Adam Hoover. I mean, man, geez, I don't know where to start. I've been up here at Alaskan Blooms since October of last year.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, I was at Red Run Cannabis Company.
Yeah.
And before that, I was with another place. And before that, I was with another place. So I had a couple jobs. I had a few jobs in the cannabis industry before I got here.
Now, is that your first time being up in Alaska? Was this?
No, I was born in Alaska.
All right. So, yeah. I mean, how different is it to go all over the place and then come back to Alaska and then grow? You know, how different is it to grow cannabis in Alaska?
I mean, honestly, I grew up growing cannabis in Alaska. Like that's what I've done my whole life. So it's a little bit different in the legal industry now that there's there's regulations, and it's a different world now completely than black market. But it's a trip. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird trying to live by rules that people made that don't grow cannabis,
Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit tricky.
That's definitely understandable. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of weird going to meetings and seeing people who are almost anti-cannabis or still have all these like assumptions about cannabis use, who are the ones who are creating these rules and helping to enforce them. And it just seems like, I don't know, seems like they're the same people who are giving us the ability to do this are also fighting against us,
Right.
Burning the candle at both ends, right?
Right. We feel the same way here in Vermont.
Yeah.
It seems like every rule they make, they have a backwards rule, like contradicts the rule that they made to give them a backdoor to give you no rules at all.
Right.
So
yeah. There's a lot of silly stuff.
Yeah. Right.
It's like, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's true. Like I never really was that deep into a single industry myself to understand, but it's like they say, a lot of it is really like, it's like politics. It's like, it's weird how things work in the corporate industry versus just like the private black market,
Sure.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, it is interesting. Now Alaska is quite a few steps further than we are here in Vermont. And then Alaska was in a few places that allow for social usage, right? Social consumption. So you guys have social areas you can go consume.
Yeah,
how's that working out for you guys?
So that's one of those things exactly like we're talking about, man. So it's like they give you this like glimmer of hope where it's like, oh, on-site consumption, that's what they call it. You know, there's
Mhm.
what it is there's a regulation that allows for a retail shop to get an endorsement to where they could have on-site consumption on their premises. Hey, how's it going?
Here's Tim. How you doing, Tim?
Good, Joe. How are you, man?
Great. Welcome, Timothy Fair from Vermont Cannabis Solutions onto the show. Timothy, say hi to Adam. We're just talking about the laws and the
What's up, dude?
the fun that's going on in Alaska.
Alaska's a great place.
Right?
Which was there.
Yeah, it's a great place. It's got some crazy people in it, though.
Does it?
Right?
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
We're talking about the open consumption laws up in Alaska and how they were working out, if they were being supported, if people, how do people react up there?
Yeah, I mean, it's super weak. Like I was saying, at first when you hear anybody, just me, like as a consumer that lives here, I'm like, oh, on-site consumption. Just hearing that it's going to be a thing, I got super excited. I was like, wow, they're really going to let people like have a place to smoke publicly. That's amazing. And then just like as it comes down the chain and gets sorted out and you hear like what it's actually going to be, by the time it gets to be implemented, it's like all they're allowing is you can smoke 1 gram of flower, or you can have, I think, 10 milligrams of edibles. And that's your limit at your on-site consumption. You know what I mean? Which, don't get me wrong, I don't want to sound like a spoiled brat. Like, hey, it's cool that you could go in there and you can smoke a joint. You know what I mean? But it's like, I can't smoke 2 joints. I can't do it. I can't eat a whole brownie. You know what I mean? Like, what kind of silly stipulations are these? You know, like,
are they going to enforce those limits, or is it going to more be like a flood?
There's only I think there might be one place that has on-site consumption where they let people smoke joints. I'm not even sure though if they're doing it. There was one place that got approved in Palmer, but they're crazy owners and management and all kinds of business problems, and they just never followed through with it. There was a place up here in Fairbanks who got approved by the state or the borough, but then the city shut them down and told them no, and the city wouldn't allow it. So it's like, super silly.
So how's the reaction on Alaska to legal cannabis? I mean, are you still dealing with crazy stigmas? Is it like, are people out in the streets celebrating and smoking with each other? Like,
so there's no public. You can't consume in public.
Not at all.
No, anywhere that you could be seen in the public, not allowed to consume. You have to be. You still have to hide. You could walk around, smoke a cigarette, you know what I mean? Walk around in a bikini, do whatever you want, hold all kinds of crazy signs that say crazy shit on the corner, you know what I mean? But you can't smoke a joint.
I believe, we hear that.
It's silly, it doesn't make any sense of why, if a person could walk down the street and smoke a cigarette, or a person could walk down the street and, do whatever I guess that you can't openly drink, I suppose, but the thing is, there's so many people walking around drinking just because it's not in a bottle, they got it in a fucking solo cup and they're drinking. But as long as they're not acting belligerent, they don't get stopped or harassed, nobody says anything about it.
And that's a good point. Everybody's out in there. I mean, look at this last weekend. We just celebrated Memorial Weekend, right? So everybody's in their backyards on boats, drinking, openly.
Yeah, and and that's the thing is, like, you can drink in public view. I could go stand at the end of my driveway and pound beers all day long and wave to my neighbors while I do it, but I can't smoke a joint there.
Right? Some of them may stop by and help you with that, right?
Yeah, right. I'm sure some of them would want to stop and help me smoke the joint too, but
right. Well, it's interesting when we talk about the stigmas. I mean, we deal with it in the States here. In Mass, it's one of those things where it's kind of crazy because, Worcester is kind of like a cannabis happy and friendly city where we can walk around and smoke cannabis. But like, then we come to Vermont and it's like, man, don't get caught in a car. Don't get caught walking down the road. I mean, some guys with medical license, they'll flaunt it in the public official space in a way. But it's interesting, man, especially when we talk about the social consumption part of it, which, I mean, Alaska jumped right on that right at the beginning. So we're all like, yes. And then, we have associations with the guys down in Mass. So it's not something that's very easily done here in Vermont. We have nothing like that even close to it.
Right.
So and then obviously, as you know, nationwide, it's not something that is accepted
Right.
everywhere. Now what you guys are doing, you guys have a cultivation facility, correct?
Yeah, we do. We have a cultivation and a retail shop, and then we also have an application initiated for a manufacturing facility.
Nice. So now your facility up there, like how does the licensing work in Alaska where you guys are? Now you're in Fairbanks, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So how does the licensing go to start a company? Like how'd you get to where you are at right now?
Well, those are two separate questions.
Right.
How I got to where I am is not how anybody else is going to get to where I am.
Right.
For another person who wanted to get a license, it's super simple and easy. If you want to grow, all you have to do is, there's a few stipulations that you have to meet in the regulations as far as like where you can't be within 500 feet of a school or a church or, rules like that or whatever. But a person could if you have a big enough home and your home meets those requirements and you're not too close to a church or too close to a school, all you got to do is put the cameras up and, start growing weed and fucking pay for the licensing fee. Like, it's not the biggest holdup is just waiting for them to check the box and send your paper back to say you're good.
Yeah.
The license itself is, so if you're going to grow in a house, you'll be in a limited license, which is only, I think at the most, maybe $5,000. So, for a person who's trying to start a business, that's not a huge chunk of money. It's a lot of money to me, and it's a lot of money to, I'm sure, most people, like the average Joe. But for a person who's trying to save up and start a business, especially a cannabis business, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. $5,000 is just a drop in the bucket compared to what you're going to have to put into the business. You know what I mean? So,
but some of these licenses are huge money that are in certain states.
Yeah. Honestly, there is some really small licensed facilities here, you know what I mean? And you could license a closet, you know what I mean? You could literally license like a 4x8 space and have one camera in there, and as long as you do all the proper paperwork, you know what I mean? Sell your half a pound of weed every month or 2 months that you bring down or whatever, but at that point, it's really, you're paying all these legal fees and paying taxes and doing all this shit, like just for a hobby or something. You know what I mean?
Right. Now, how's it working in Alaska? Now, when you can grow your weed, can you sell your weed legally?
If you have a license.
Yeah.
That's it. Now, if you're not licensed, then you can't sell it.
Right, so it doesn't matter if it's black market, anything. As long as you're licensed, I guess you're technically not.
Well, no. If you're a licensed grower, then you can sell to licensed retail stores.
Okay.
But you have to be a licensed grower in order for it to be legal weed.
Right.
And all that weed is all tracked in the computer from the point that it's 8 inches tall and it gets a plant tag, you know what I mean? And that plant is tracked all the way until it's harvested and weighed and dried and sold. Oh, Bub's trying to call me right now. Hold on one second here.
All right, guys. Well, it's interesting to talk about the tracking system that they have implemented up there from 6 inches with a tag into sale, which is pretty cool. I'd like to talk to them a little bit more about that. But here in Vermont, we talk about the dreams of getting to a point like that where we can actually establish licenses like that. Now that we have Abs on a quick phone break here, maybe we talk to Timothy Fair a little bit more about what we get going on here, S54 wise, legality wise, things that we should be able to look forward to here. Tim, are you there? Oh, we get Adam.
There we go.
We're all set. We can hear you. All right. So we're talking about the tagging system now.
Hold on, my sound is messed up. I feel like I can't hear you.
You got it?
What's happening here?
You guys
there
now?
you are.
Here we are.
Now I got you on my.
All right, cool. So we were just discussing the your tracking system. Now, this is something that we talk about a lot, especially when it comes to regulations and systems. And not every state has a tracking system. Is this a state mandated tracking system, or is this just something that you guys do for whoever you're selling the cannabis to?
No, that is 100% state mandated. Yeah.
Huh. So from 8 inches, it gets a tag and it goes right to basically the sales, huh?
Yeah. So the system that they have is they give you an entry point at which you're going to open up your license and you're going to bring plants in to start. When they give you that window, you have the ability in the system to just like create your plant tags and say, this is what I have. I have this many mother plants. I have this many babies, and this is everything I'm bringing in. And you give them all tags. So from then on, they close that window, and then you can't create plants out of thin air no more. Then all the plants that you create have to be created from the plants that you have that are tagged. There is a form that someone could fill out. Anyone who is over 21 can fill out a form and then give 6 clones or 10 seeds to a licensed facility. So as an owner, I can have anyone who I know or trust or love who's got a cut that I like or seeds that I like, they can give those to me, and I just have to fill it out on a piece of paper and send it to the state, and the state has to give me a thumbs up.
You're up and running.
They're cool about it. They've done that for us tons of times.
So that's interesting. So you basically you register your moms. Everything's registered. You can't cut clones after that. That's what you're saying after that point, right? So you just have to run everything out.
Yeah, you can cut clones, but you have to then you have to tag all of your clones have to come from those tagged plants, and you've got to keep track of all of them and tag them as they grow. Like, you don't got to give a clone a tag right away. You take a clone and then let it get rooted. And it's only once it gets over 8 inches is when, by state regulation, it's supposed to get a tag assigned to it.
Okay, now they can just walk in and audit you pretty fairly easily, huh?
Yeah, super easy. They walk in with a scanner and it just tells them exactly how many plants are, because the rooms are broken down in the computer as well. So they'll get a scan of how many plants are in the room, and it will tell them immediately if the numbers are off, you know.
Now, does the state issue a scanner, like a device that you guys are required to use? Is it kind of like an inspection station for cars where, you know, you have to pay rent on this thing?
Yeah, no, if you want any of that hardware or software that goes with those tags, you got to pay for it. There's a bunch of third-party apps and software and shit you could buy, but none of it is required. Like, the state doesn't require you to have to scan the tags. They just require that you have them and that you track them. So, like, we don't have scanners. We do everything manually. We write them all down in logs.
Now, your system that you guys have going up there, right? It's a live soil system, right? That's what you guys are growing in?
Well, so we've just started to transition out of the live soil and into rock wool.
Okay. Now, why? Now, let me ask you. What is the thought behind the change? Because I mean, at least here, everybody we talk about live soil all the time, and live soil being one of the ultimates for the craft cannabis industry.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and live soil is great. And I mean, the thing is it's just really hard to keep consistent on a large scale. And like, I'll take you in and walk you around and show you the facility before, you know, we're done today. But for as big as we are, it's super tough to keep that whole soil cycle going constantly. You almost need double the space, you know, to keep all of that going. It's just really was just a matter of efficiency and trying to help save the company and compensate for some of the tax costs. You know what I mean? When you ridiculous to try. You still have to compete with the black market, whether anyone wants to admit it or not. You know what I mean? Like the black market's never going away, and it's always going to be there. And so, as a legal market, you have to. If you don't compete with the black market, you're not going to sell product. You know what I mean? So, if you want to compete with the prices on the black market, then you have to put something out of, you know, a fair price. So it's like, you know, when this whole industry first started, it was insane, man. There was, you know, $25, $30 grams of flower. You know, people were selling wholesale pounds of, like, growers were selling their pounds to retail shops for like $6,000 and $7,000 a pound. Like, that's insanity. I got a job in the industry and I saw that. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? People were prepaying that. They're like, here's $80,000 for 12 pounds. Let me know when it's done and I'll take it.
Yeah, right.
Holy shit. That's crazy. But it's sort of, you know, that was maybe 4 years ago. It's leveled out a little bit now to where the average retail pound is probably 32 or 3,500, and I mean that's pretty close to black market. I mean, I guess it depends. You know, I don't know. The black market's got a much bigger bracket. You know what I mean? Than the legal market. You know, the legal market's a real. You know, you might find some pounds for 2,800, or you might find some pounds for 3,600. Like that's about the most of the bracket of like decent flower. But the black market is like, you know, fuck, I don't know. Maybe you might find pounds for $1,000 or pounds for $5,000. You know, it just depends on what part of the state you're in, who you know, and Bub's trying to call me back again. I think he's having a hard time figuring out how to get in on the link.
Just follow the highlighted blue spot. We'll get you in. It gets kind of confusing when you get into the Zoom realm when you start getting it, because like with my sound, my this, my that.
We have everything nailed now, which is really nice. It's super nice.
Finally, right?
Yeah, definitely. You don't have to worry about anything. It's like I'm not like fixated on if everything is, it's all there at all. Awesome. Jeff Wells sent us a message like, hey, you guys growing any autoflowers out there?
Right. That's a great question. Jeff talks about growing autoflowers up in Alaska all the time. I don't think we can hear you, Adam.
Oh no, is my sound off?
Oh no.
There you go. We heard you now.
Okay.
We got our buddy Jeff harassing about autoflowers. We all know who Jeff Wells is. We all know how he loves his autoflowers. So I'm sure he's giving you some a little bit of harassment over there. A bunch of people are live now. So now, I mean, obviously, you know, is the Alaskan climate something that you guys can actually grow outdoor cannabis in? Is there a season that allows for it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we got a fast, hot summer. You know what I mean? It's not a long season, but it's a good one. And fucking some of the biggest outdoor plants you've seen will grow up here. I mean, maybe not cannabis. You know what I mean? But like what record-breaking like fucking pumpkins and shit. You know what I mean? Like big. It gets big up here in the summer just because there's so much sun all the time that the veg just blows it out. You know what I mean? So there's definitely a good season for an outdoor crop for sure.
I say, don't you guys have a different kind of a light cycle than we do here?
It's extreme. Yeah. I mean, even right now, it doesn't really get dark. You know,
like all day long, right?
Yeah. I mean, it gets like this is afternoon light, so it's pretty bright right now. But it just gets like almost like when the sun's about to set and it kind of starts to get dim a little bit, like before it just gets like that and stays like that all night.
But that doesn't trip out the plants at all, huh?
Well, until like maybe July, they'll start to catch that cycle on the other side when the light starts to fade, and then it will start getting dark at night. You know.
So does that bring your flower season like does that impact your flowering season and push it back a little bit later in the calendar, just because of the weird time of light?
Oh yeah, you're definitely either it's really tough. Nobody is doing like straight outdoor, you know what I mean? Somebody's like, we're talking like light depth houses, hoop houses or something, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's not outdoor like you'll see in like California or Oregon, like where you just see a big field outside.
Right.
That's that's Alaskan outdoor, I guess. Yeah.
Well, we got Bub on now. We got him on. What's up, Bub? How you doing? Oh, we gotta get his microphone on there. Oh, there we go.
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Good, man. Good. So we got Bub on. We got Adam here. We've been talking about Alaskan blossoms here for a minute here. Introduce yourself real quick to Bub for everybody who's been watching. Let us know who you are.
Well, my name's Linden Anson, but everybody calls me Bub, and I'm one of the owners at Alaskan Blooms. And I came to Alaska like 8 years ago. I'm from the East Coast, and I just been growing cannabis my whole life, and it's just part of what I am.
Mm-hmm. And now you guys we're talking about the facility earlier. How big is the facility that you guys are operating right now?
I think we're probably, I want to say it's like over 20,000 square feet of grow space. Yeah. That's a grow space. What's the square footage, Bub?
It's 24,000 square foot under building, and then 3 greenhouses that are 12 by 60.
So how many? That's a big space. So how many plants do you guys pretty much put through in the summertime then?
Well, I know just about any time. I mean, we've spiked as high as 24 to 30,000 plants on premise. And I know right now we're probably running close to about 7,000 on premise.
Oh. That's a lot of plants.
Wow.
Like we're just, yeah, right. I mean, so now you brought up a good point earlier when we were talking about the live soil issues. I mean, when you go up in cultivation, everybody has dreams of these huge grow operations, right? And we all have these big dreams, all these big dreams, right? How different is it when you approach a huge cultivation like this from coming from a small home cultivation? I mean, we're kind of just brushing on it for a minute there, but I think a lot of people, this is where they trip and stumble, right?
Well, in my own case and my own figuring it out that you can be the world's greatest grower in a 4x4 tent and it's super easy. But when you take a 20,000 square foot warehouse and you have temperature fluctuations the way Alaska does from 50 degrees to 90 degrees in under 7 hours, or 8 hours, it becomes a whole new ball game on how to damper that and to dial it in to be what you want for the plants to do as good as they can possibly do.
The temperature fluctuations here seem to be the biggest issue for a lot of people. Now, your greenhouses, you run them year round?
No, we just run so in honesty, we ran the greenhouses for 2 years now, and we've only ever used them for veg. We just used it as a veg overflow. And this year, I don't know if Adam went into it, but we did a thing, and we have some, we're gonna run some flour out of it this year.
Nice. I mean, it's definitely interesting. Now you guys,
I can't hear shit, but I'm.
Oh, nice. He's actually, Adam, I think he's actually in the facility now.
Yeah, he was a minute ago.
Oh, there he is. Look at that. Let's get the camera onto that right now. Which is an amazing amount. So now, what do you guys run for strains? How are you picking your strains? How many different strains do you have going?
So when we came out of the gate, it was 389 strains and about 10 to 50 phenos of each strain. And now I think they backed it down to about 90 active phenos that are running in the whole facility.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when
Nice.
when we first come out, everybody was picking strains, and my thing is I don't want to eat hot dogs every day for the rest of my life. So there's so many flavors and so much stuff out there. Why wouldn't we try it all?
Right, exactly. I mean, that's the biggest problem I think we have, especially with vertically integrated dispensaries. Now, you guys are working with the dispensary systems, and you're able to sell the dispensary systems if they're correct, so they can just come and pick what they want in essence, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, our cultivation the first year had no dispensary, and now we're going into our first year of having our own dispensary, which is attached to our cultivation, and we're in the process of applying for the extraction license also to be able to be fully integrated.
Right. Now, what are the laws against extractions in Alaska? Are there anything against them in essence, or is it pretty much open?
That is going to be an Adam question.
I think Adam's running around showing us a facility right now, I believe.
You can't really hear us all that well.
Oh, yeah. So, like in the laws, I mean,
hold on, I can't hear nothing anymore.
Oh, there he is.
There, I can hear him now.
Yeah, we're just talking about the, in many states we see there's different laws for flower versus extractions. What are the laws in Alaska on the extraction side? Are you guys handicapped in any way, or is it?
Oh, that must have been his truck.
There he is. Did you catch that, Adam?
Am I back?
You're back.
Now I got sound.
Man, what a beautiful facility. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, just give you a quick little run through a couple rooms.
I say it's quite a step up from a home operation, if you ask me. No, you guys are talking about going into extractions and building another facility for extractions, and the question is what are the laws on extractions in Alaska? Are they really against extractions? Is it a wide open thing, or they just kind of consider it like flower?
I mean, honestly, there's still even so, we're talking about how the stigma is and everything, even with the people who are making the rules and the boards who oversee this stuff, I think there's an even worse stigma about concentrates than there is about cannabis in general. It's they feel like it's like the heroin of weed, they think it's super, super bad, or, I don't know what they think, but it seems like anytime they get any kind of questions about it, they're just not for upping any kind of limits, or, even with edibles, same way.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I mean, like Brandon's out in Alaska, and for a long time, like anything concentrated or non-flower in Alaska was, you didn't want to get caught with, you know what I mean? But you're allowed to get caught with flower. Flower is kind of okay. So there's a lot of crazy things that have been going on in the industry. We have our lawyer Tim on as well that can explain a little bit of those different things. Now, are you guys now with COVID, right? What are you guys doing for this COVID thing? Are you guys curbside? Are you doing deliveries? Like, how's that system working out for you guys?
They did some emergency regulations where they actually for a minute, they let us gold streak our weed to the testing facility, but then they took that away real quick. But they gave us a couple extensions on our trip so we could stop and stay at a hotel, and a couple of stipulations that made it a little bit easier, stuff that they should have done already, but during the pandemic times, they just made it easier, I guess. And they gave us curbside delivery so people could walk up. They don't have to come into the store. Before, I mean, the rules explicitly state that in order for a person to buy cannabis, they have to be inside the licensed premise area. And so they made a what do you call temporary regulation or an emergency regulation, where now they let us have this little walk-up window where someone can walk right up to the window, even though it's got bars on it. It's a reinforced window, but they can walk up and knock on the window and order right there and get their product passed out to them.
Right, it's amazing where we're coming for, and how many years it's been to take there, and what COVID's really done to flip it on its head now. I mean, we've seen recreational stores close. Do you have recreational stores closed in Alaska as well, and only dispensaries, medically rated?
You know, honestly, the cannabis shops were probably one of the only places that didn't close. Most of the other stores to close, and we weren't. We were allowed to stay open. So there was some places that did change their hours or cut their hours back. We didn't. You know, if it wasn't for regulations, I'm sure Bub probably feels the same way. I'd like to have 24/7 shops. But you know, we changed. We didn't change our hours. There was a couple places that changed their hours, but I think even the places that changed their hours are back to normal hours now. As of last Friday, all of Alaska is open for business and back to normal.
Nice. So, is there a mask law kind of established now, or
no mask requirements or nothing?
Nice. Well, hopefully that all goes well for everybody, so we can get the rest of this country back on its feet. Because I mean, we've seen a huge impact in a lot of businesses, but it seems like the cannabis industry has had a great last few months. Has it impacted your business by any means, or has it shot it up?
Yeah, no, I mean, we've just been steadily climbing as far as business goes. You know, just getting better and better every day. We definitely didn't see it hurt business in any way, really.
That's awesome. Because we're seeing stores struggle now. We're seeing restaurants closing, but every time I read an article, it's about how one state's doing great in their taxes and in their sales, and everybody, you know, there's lines at the doors for these dispensaries. The curbside's going really well. We had the issues earlier where the bars were closing or they were staying open. Now we have bars doing curbside and bars doing outside seating and all these crazy things going on. So it's going to be interesting when we get it all reopened to see how it works, what we take away, what we go back to. You know what I mean? It'll be a lot of fun. So when you guys, I guess Jeff wants to know, do you guys have any autoflowers going, or is it all straight from seeds? Or are they all clones? Like, what do you guys prefer and why?
No, we do. We got autos.
Yeah. Now, how do you like the autos, man? We ask all the growers this question that grow autos versus regular plants. I mean, you know, there's a lot of people that tune in and listen to the show. What are the pros and cons versus autoflowers in your opinion?
Personally, I've never grown any autoflowers. I've not. These autoflowers are the first ones that I've seen, and they're from the man himself. You know.
Right. Nice. So hopefully it goes well for you. I mean, it's a question we get all the time. You know what I mean? And we're cloners. We believe in lineages and finding genetics. So it's like with it all.
I've seen some really dank autoflower. You know what I mean? And I know other people who grow autos, and you know, for me, it's a great. It seems like a super great use for out in the greenhouse. You know.
Yeah, perfect, right? Where you have a short growing time, you need something to grow quick, something to grow tall and be done with. That makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense, right? Well, guys, it's 5 o'clock now. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take a quick little shift of gears right now. We're gonna give Bub and Adam a little break. Stay with us, guys. Don't go anywhere. We're gonna talk to Timothy Fair a little bit here about laws and things going on in the country. Bub, Adam, if you have any questions or comments, just feel free to chime in. It just basically turns into an open platform, but you know, we talk about a lot of what's going on in the industry right now. And one of the big things that I saw this week, and this is a kind of a funny lawsuit, I guess you could say, but it brings up a good question, right? So just the other day, I'm sitting here watching a home improvement with my 7-year-old son, right? And it's an investment, a home improvement show. We're watching it. My son's really into these home improvement shows, right? So guys going through, they're looking at this house. He's showing them all the upgrades. They get in the backyard, and all of a sudden, guys like, "Do you smell that?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, you know, yeah, it smells like weed, right?" So they look over the fence, and you know, here's a whole backyard of trees, man. I mean, this guy, you know, is huge buds. It was a perfect. They couldn't have picked a better time to see this guy's plants, right? So then they had this wild idea about going up to the door and seeing if there was something the neighbor could do about the smell. And I almost fell off my seat because the guy went up there and asked the guy all politely and asked him if there's anything you do about the smell. And the guy was like, in a couple of weeks it'll go away. But as funny as that may sound to us, because we all understand cannabis, we all understand smells, but this is an issue that some people have brought to court, right? Now in Oregon, I don't know if anybody caught this yet or not. A neighbor's lawsuit over their stinky cannabis was actually finally dropped in court. I don't know if anybody got a chance to see that or not, but it brings up a good question. Like, what is, obviously the neighbor's rights to live next to somebody that has stinky cannabis? I mean, obviously I think of it, it's no different than living next to somebody with a farm, any other business that could potentially put off any fumes that you may not like. Or what are the facilities rights, or what can we do to help our neighborhoods? Now, that was my question for Tim. So I don't know if you saw that before I did, Tim, or not. But this is a good question because we've seen these issues arise, and especially when it comes to people trying to get licenses within towns, right? Because this is the excuse a lot of people fall back on.
Nuisance laws. I mean, that's what people will try to use. They've tried to go as far as using RICO, which is a criminal statute. The civil component of it hasn't worked really well in federal courts. That was taken a little bit too far. But people who are the prohibitionists, anti-cannabis people are going to come up with every little possible thing they can try to make to keep the industry down. And it's frustrating. Thankfully, it does come down to common sense, though. If you're a good neighbor, you're going to have less problems. If you can anticipate and see what type of things others have had issues with and work proactively to avoid those, you're going to be in better shape. And ultimately, you want to have kind of serenity with your environment. If you are in a town or in a location where they do not support cannabis and they don't support what you're doing, you're going to have a rough time. One way or another, they're going to figure out ways to mess with you. That's happened since the beginning of this industry, and it continues to happen now.
Right. I mean, it's a bad stigma to have, but unfortunately, it's no different than like living next to a farm when you're going through farming season, right? When you have the manure time, right? I mean, it's not year round. You would definitely want to get along with your neighbors. You definitely want to create a safe environment for everybody to feel like they're going to be involved. But like, does this set a precedence for future lawsuits, or is this just going to be like a state by state issue or a town by town issue that we normally talk about?
I mean, the lawsuit is a nuisance lawsuit. There's nothing cutting edge about it. It's whether a jury would find a reasonable person is this beyond what a reasonable person should expect. Cultivation and agriculture, manure. These are things we've just used to. This is basic. This is common sense. This is reasonable. If, however, you had a 70,000 square foot facility that you were drying and curing in with no scent remediation, and there was just 70,000 square feet of drying cannabis wafting over an old person's home, that could probably have, issues. So that's what I say common sense is kind of think about what's happening. Think about a reasonable person. Is this not me as a cannabis person, not this as a prohibitionist, but is it a reasonable person? Are they going to find that this is or should be cool? And if the answer is yes, then you're probably okay. And if it's unreasonable, then you're probably not. Like I said, a lot of these prohibitionists did try the RICO statutes of racketeering and organized crime, saying that this is an illegal federal activity, and therefore the smell coming from it is emanating as a result of illegal federal activity, and therefore they should be able to sue for all this money. Thankfully, the courts that's taking it a little bit too far. But these cases still continue, and it's just a matter of one judge, the right judge, who's like, that sounds good to me. And that could be a serious problem. Thankfully, we haven't seen that yet.
Right. Well, I mean, we've seen some crazy things with the COVID affecting, like we said, recreational sales, adult use sales in many states. We just seen Massachusetts reopen for adult recreational sales. So congratulations to Mass. Now, with all the COVID really, lifts, everybody going back to work. We talked about it earlier about how the cannabis industry has really been striving through all this. A lot of these companies are going up. Why are we seeing bigger companies crashing right now? Is it just stock market issues due to COVID, or is it supply issues?
Nothing has nothing to do with stock market. We still don't have access to banking. I would say that's the major issue. This is still an industry that is illegal, that is federally illegal. You don't have banks, you don't have financial institutions. All of the financing is debt financing at exorbitant, ridiculous rates. It's the challenge is inherent within the industry. 280E alone. You guys got to know about that on your retail.
Right.
These guys, I can imagine the effective tax rate you're paying at your dispensaries. This is a major, major problem. You can't tax people at 70% and expect an industry to thrive. You can't tell an industry they need to do this, this, and this, but don't give them access to banking. You can't, these are just, such fundamental basic concepts in business that everyone takes for granted that the cannabis industry does not. And we spend a lot of our time working with our clients trying to get around a lot of these stupid issues that shouldn't really even exist.
Which is,
but that's why a lot of these companies are having a rough time. Now, there's COVID help, obviously not. Seeing medical cannabis be considered an essential business, whoa, that's beautiful.
That's huge.
Felony to essential really quick.
Right.
And I'd like to see that with all adult use. But at the end of the day, COVID or no COVID, if we don't have access to banking, if we don't have access to loans, if we don't have access to bankruptcy court, companies are struggling with that right now. Even listing on the U.S. stock exchange is practically impossible. A lot of these companies, like Ianthus, have had to list on a Canadian secondary exchange, Canadian Securities Exchange, the CSE. That limits their liquidity. That limits how much money they can raise. That puts so many, more challenges that, again, shouldn't be necessary. A United States company should not be being forced to list in Canada simply because what they choose to sell.
Well, one of the things that you guys said is about the banking. And, the crazy part about it is the states are banking. They're using banks. They're putting that money in there. They're doing it on national television when they're putting the cash dollars from those taxes from cannabis into the bank. But yet we can't do it at that same bank. A lot of the lawsuits and stuff that you guys see that are coming up where people are suing somebody because of smell and all this. If the cannabis industry would just quit being so scared and take the states on that are doing this and say, hey, wait a minute, you're getting to bank. Why can't we bank too with the same bank that you're doing? Right? It's called equal rights. You want to be treated like an equal industry, fight for your rights. If you don't ask for them, they won't give them to you. And when I ask these questions to our state people, nobody wants to have that conversation. And like I told them, I already called it. It takes, you can do it yourself. Take them to court. Why would you infringe on my rights? The same as any state that says, oh, by the way, you have to be a resident to have a license here. That's against a constitutional right. I'm part of the United States of America, not one state. And it's more than them.
Residency requirements are unconstitutional. No question about it. They're absurd.
Oh, for sure. And the other thing they talk about is they tell us when we're doing wrong in this and all these, like the RICO Act and all this stuff, how many federal laws have the states broke in setting these up and what they're doing and how they're doing it, right? I don't know how your guys' states are, but in the state of Alaska, you get an NOV, that can come with a fine. It comes with fees, penalties, the taxes that you pay in come with penalties and late fees. You know what I'm saying? Where's that money going? It's going into a bank, right? Because they are definitely not handing out cash at the state.
No. Now, do you guys have a supportive banking system where you're located?
No, there's no supporting banking system. They want $2,500 per month per $1 million on each license. You know how much it would cost us to bank?
Wow,
that's amazing. So, I mean, we see a lot of states with this roadblock. Even in Vermont, Massachusetts, when they went completely legal, they didn't have a banking system really at all. They had like a credit union to support their whole industry. It really, really, really backlogs the state. I mean, what do you guys do when it's tax season? Like Tim said, this is one of my biggest questions I was waiting to ask you is, what the hell are the taxes on weed in Alaska? And it must be phenomenal, right?
$800 a pound.
$800 a pound is tax.
Yeah.
Oh my! And it doesn't matter what the price of the pound is; they just go by weight, right?
No. Yeah.
Oh, Wow.
So
All right.
stupid.
That
As the cultivator, the grower is the only one who pays the tax. The retail don't pay tax. The manufacturer don't pay tax. Only the grower pays the tax, and he pays it on every pound he moves out, regardless.
Well, I mean, that must set the market, though. You know what I mean? Because I mean, you can't sell it to somebody to buy it who's literally isn't going to pay the tax anyway. So I mean, it's a trickle down effect. But man, it must really affect your pricing up in what I mean. I guess the question is I guess what does an ounce go for in a dispensary up there?
I mean, it depends. Honestly, you can find an ounce for 200, or you could probably find an ounce for 450 or something. But I mean, honestly, the biggest thing is that it just really cripples the inside the industry business before it moves out to public access. You know what I mean? It makes it so hard for a grower to do a deal with a manufacturer on 20 pounds of product and wait 4 months for that manufacturer to make it into something and then disperse it to retails and wait for it to get sold and come back before you're seeing the money back off that 20 pounds. But as soon as you move that 20 pounds out, you owe taxes for it at 800 pounds. So it's like you got to pay all that money as soon as you move it out of your facility.
Yeah.
You're on the hook for it. But, you know, the way the tax structure is set up, it's because people that set it up didn't have any type of experience, or, you know, they don't understand how things work. You know, they just set it up thinking, oh yeah, this is fine, and not taking all of this other stuff into consideration.
Wow.
Right. I mean,
and you know as well as I do, Joe, meanwhile in Oregon, they're out in cannabis auctions selling pounds for $140. You can get a 10-pound lot of cannabis, like grade A cannabis right now at auction for probably like $1,400-1,500 for 10 pounds. For $3,000, you could probably pick up about a 20-pound lot and just create all day. All day.
Right. I know I have to pay more than that in taxes just to move it out of my facility.
Yeah,
That's insane. I can't. It's just nuts.
That is crazy, and that's why that's why we're asking these questions, because as much as we think we know about legalities, right? I mean, we're all like, "Yay, Alaska, they're legal! Yay, they got public consumption! Yay!" Like we can't wait to go. And then this leads me to my next question. If I want to come visit you, Adam, right, and can I walk into a dispensary in Alaska? Can I get a card? Like, how's that work for people that are just coming like tourists?
You can walk in 100%, walk off the street, as long as you got an ID, a valid government or state issued ID that says that you're over 21. You can come in. The only limits are the state limits on the amount that you're allowed to purchase. So you're only allowed to purchase 28 grams of flour, or 7 grams of concentrates, or 5,600 milligrams of edibles. You can do like a combination, and it will cut you off in the computer as you're ringing people out. It will limit you out once you've sold one customer so many things. You know what I mean? But there is a limit to what you can purchase. You can't just come in and clean the store out.
No, does it make a difference if I have a medical card?
No.
Okay.
No, the only thing a medical card does in Alaska is on the personal grow side, it ups your plant count. You can double your plant count with a medical card.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of like what we did here in Vermont, but it doesn't really seem to help with much because it's just a silly amount anyways. You know what I mean? Now, Tim, I want to get back to Tim real quick, and we're talking about things happening, legality, state legalities. Here's Cuomo the other day talking about how New York's going to go legal in 2020. Is this something that we can really see happen at this state of the game where we are with COVID and laws and
not New York.
Can you pull this off?
Not New York. New York will go next year. COVID really threw a monkey wrench into it, but it was off the rails prior to COVID, and COVID certainly didn't help.
Yeah.
But I do believe it. It's an inevitability. It's just with anything in New York, you're dealing with so many different factions and so many different sets of values and parts of the state. I mean, you have upstate, you've got New York City, you've got Long Island. I mean, these are 3 completely and totally different cultures. And trying to get anything through New York State is an absolute nightmare. I grew up there. It's almost my life, so we're very familiar with it. We think we have a hard time in Vermont getting anything done. Getting anything done there is fucking impossible. But New York will go next year. You know, this is inevitable. There's a good chance that Jersey will pass by ballot initiative in November. That should get the fire lit under New York's ass once Jersey's up and running with their dispensaries. They've been actually progressing rather nicely. You know, we've got Massachusetts now up in line and running. Vermont's inevitable. You know, if not this year, it will be within the next year or two. You know, by the next, when you're looking at a 3 or 4 year time frame, the East Coast will be legal. It's just a matter of when. You know.
I mean, we're seeing
now decriminalizing. Who'd have thought Virginia would be decriminalizing? You know. So these things are happening quick. And I have a real feeling that a lot of these, you know, states with all these moral objections, when they have these COVID deficits to deal with, all of a sudden, the couple $100 million in revenue is going to sound a lot better. So I think in a way, this whole nightmare we've been going through could actually help to kind of push the people who might have been on the edge about it over.
Right. Now it's going to be amazing to see and think that when we get back to it, because you know everybody, it's literally on the table for every state is cannabis legalization. We've seen a lot of decriminalizations, like you said. Whoever thought we would see Virginia do that? You know what I mean? It's just been huge for a lot of people in a lot of different states where we, you know, a lot of this is something that we haven't seen coming. Now, when we talk about decrims and stuff like that, you know, Mexico is an interesting conversation because we've seen them, you know, talk about going legal, not legal. I just read an article the other day. They were talking about how they didn't believe that there'd be money to be made to substantiate a legal market. Do you think that's something that we have to worry about, or do you think that our previous legal states are showing that, you know, these can strive and create a revenue stream?
What's your question exactly? Mexico. Lost me a little bit there, buddy.
Sorry about that. Exactly? I was reading an interesting article the other day on on Mexico, and they were talking about how they didn't believe that the cannabis industry would support itself on a tax market. You know, and this is a question that has been brought up in Vermont as well. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people were like, we don't think it can support. I mean, we've seen a lot of states be really successful in their models, right? Do you think this helps or hurts the industry if Mexico decides not to go legal? I mean, they've been talking about it for a while.
They can't. Hold on. You got to understand. It's very difficult when you compare countries. What happened in Mexico was the Supreme Court of Mexico ruled 4 separate times, which is what they required to set new precedent, that the illegality of marijuana was unconstitutional. Based on the Mexican Constitution, it was unconstitutional to outlaw marijuana. So there is no, we are not going to do it. They have to do it. They have no longer have legal justification to maintain prohibition. The question is, how are we going to do it? They also have a very unique situation in that their pretty much entire law enforcement apparatus of the country is a corrupt arm of drug cartel.
Right.
I mean, that's not a joke. It's horrible, but it's true. So there's very little in terms of, I mean, the drug cartels were the ones handing out coronavirus aid. If that gives you any, because the federal government couldn't hack it. So I mean, this is really, the lines are blurred, what's good, what's right, what's bad. But when it comes to regulating a product and regulating a controlled market in a substance like marijuana, anything in Mexico, I mean, it's just night and day from what we're looking at here in the United States. Very difficult to compare the two. You know, the United States is 50 fucking separate concepts of what pot is and what it isn't. You know, at least in Mexico, they only got one to deal with. But here it's, you know, everybody's going to be dealing with their own way. You know, we've got states like California that have had a legal system for years and now are being forced to, you know, to put a pre-existing system into a shitty little box. And you got states like New York that people have been smoking pot in New York City for a long fucking time. But they've used it as a convenient excuse to arrest black and brown people for the last 20 years in the tens to hundreds of thousands. So there's a real kind of desire not to mess with the status quo. You know, gives us a tool. I love that. That's what I love. Whenever you're discussing, you know, the cops going, well, by legalization, you take an important tool away from us to be able to get into vehicles. It's like, wait, we're taking away your right to violate our constitutional rights? Jesus, what were we thinking? You know, but that's the kind of shit mentality you're still dealing with, you know, large swaths of the country.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stigmatism that goes with it. I went back to New York in December for Christmas, and just to wear a shirt that had cannabis or anything cannabis related on it, people stare. You know, you're like, you're wearing that out in public? It's like, well, yeah, why wouldn't I? It's a shirt. I mean, you know, like, you know where it is, but like New York, I mean, that's my home state, and sad to say it, but they're like 8 years behind the times on the wax and the oils that they're smoking. It's just super poor grade. Like, you know, like when I went there, people are like,
they don't even let their medical patients smoke flower. That's the be fucking shoved up your ass or tincture. It's ridiculous. You know?
Sure. They showed me some of their, because New York has legal medical, and they showed me some of their medical cards, and I was like, absolutely not. Like, you can't even see what's in there, and they're paying $160 for a half-gram cart that you can't even see what's in it. And I was like, but on a good part of it, when I was there, because I'm from upstate New York, the Aquatosany Indian Reservation legalized recreational use cannabis on that reservation, and that is going to put a boot in Cuomo's ass to legalize that, because the people, that reservation, just like the casino, is going to pull all the money from those surrounding towns, and they're going to say, we need to get in on that freight train, you know, and it's going to push them. It's going to push them to legalize faster.
It's inevitable. It'll happen. Like I said, no matter when. Hopefully next year.
And, I mean, he's absolutely right, because cannabis is legal on the Seneca Nation too, as well. So that's going to be huge. That's huge upstate money, like ridiculous upstate money.
Yes, ridiculous amounts of money. I just couldn't even believe that Cuomo would sit back and let the reservation beat him to the punch on it. You know, they have it set up. I mean, New York, the way they set up a lot of their banking for their medical part of the industry is they put their banking right through the state employees retirement bank, you know, so that interest and the money that's getting made is actually going to the state employees for their retirement, you know.
You know, it's crazy to think. I mean, in Florida is not that much different, really, right? I mean, they can't. Their medical system is very limited in allowing them to consume cannabis in only very few certain ways. They're coming up
the last year. It was, interestingly enough, the Supreme Court in Florida shot down a bunch of restrictions that the legislature had placed onto their ballot initiative, with the reasoning being that the legislature was improperly burdening the will of the people, which is why ballot initiatives actually are nice. So while the legislature in Florida tried to put things like no smoking flower and all these ridiculous restrictions, they were all uniformly shot down by the Supreme Court. Florida's, you know, they're breaking 300,000 inpatient numbers now, and they were this close to adult use. I'm guessing, you know, if not next year, certainly the following year for Florida. And then that's really it. Once New York and Florida both go for adult use, we're done. You know, at that point, everyone else is just going to be following.
Those are our major tipping stones, right?
Right, those are the last two. Illinois was a big one. Chicago, that was the Midwest. That went faster and better than anyone could have ever anticipated. And once New York and Florida go, you have California, Illinois, New York, and Florida all. But Texas is going to hold out, and I tell you, even down there, people fucking support cannabis. So you know,
Texas,
you would think wouldn't.
Texas is a funny one to me because they went overboard. They're pushing the hemp. They're not listening to the government. They're just going hemp's crazy down there, but they kind of still conservative about the cannabis side of it, the THC side of things, which is amazing, right?
You know, it's some counties are, some counties aren't.
Yeah.
Around Austin, they sure don't give a fuck. And actually, most of the major metropolitan areas, Dallas, Fort Worth,
right?
You know, Houston's a little different, but you know, it's such a huge state that you get, you know, a lot of different factions. Right. I don't know. I think Texas is probably within 5 years.
Yeah.
Listen, I gotta head out, but hey, Adam, Bub, real nice to meet you guys. Fucking enjoy it. We'll see you around. And Brendan, Joe, I will talk to you guys soon. Have a great week.
Thank you very much, sir.
See ya.
All right, talk to you later. All right, guys, that was Timothy Fair from Vermont Cannabis Solutions, our live in studio, our in living room lawyer that comes on the show every week with us. Yeah, it's so different now that we're not in the studio and we're not calling each other, and we're not in offices, and we're all like, you know, sitting in our dining room tables or in our back rooms or even in our trucks. You know what I mean? Look where technology has got us, right? So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of crazy things going on, and we talk about the different stigmas, the different laws, the different approaches and mentalities in different states on how to legalize cannabis, right? It's crazy. And then we talk about on the federal level. You know, I wanted to ask Tim this question. Brandon, maybe you want to pitch in and play Tim for a minute, but this is what I wanted to talk to Tim about the most. Was the Supreme Court declines cases on marijuana decriminalization measures that are being blocked from local ballots. So there's all these local ballots from initiatives that are trying to be passed in with you know, their ballots, and they're just blocking them. Is this something that is illegal? Can we not get cannabis legalization measures onto voters' ballots, especially this time of the season where we are voting in local reps, we're voting on these big issues, we're talking about cannabis every day, we're waiting for the national side of things to come together?
I mean, you know, it's essential, right? I mean, it's essential business for this whole quote unquote pandemic that we're going through. And now all of a sudden it can't be included in legislature because, yeah, I mean, that sounds absolutely asinine if you ask me, to really be fair. I don't see why that would be a thing. Once again, I don't understand why everyone's denying themselves these hundreds of millions of dollars in tax revenue that they could easily be putting into their own states, governments, and systems to literally help feed people, educate people. I mean, I really don't understand how. But it's not difficult. This isn't rocket science. I mean, you know, it's just there's just so much corruption in it. That's what it really comes down to. It's the corruption politics.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
A lot of it is if you look at the different groups that are in offices and where their age brackets are, and that will tell you a lot about beliefs. Like the more laws and everything, and the more lax you have to see it. You have to see the generation get into politics and actually pick up that gauntlet and not be, you know, the corrupt and part of that and go forward. That's how you fix the broken machine that's from the inside out. You know, we can all grow great weed and we can all sell great weed, but the minute that you get into politics and start installing that and showing people and showing it is where you will get rid of that fear of the people that just vote no matter what.
There's also that stigma still, I mean, especially in politics, because I mean, that generation that's still in office, I mean, we have to consider this as well. I mean, we talk about all the time on the federal level is, you know, we have an older generation of people, the older generation that was our parents, the people that grew up in reefer madness, the people that were actually the most affected by the criminalization of cannabis, right? And, you know, I mean, people that, you know, most of the people that went to jail, most of the people, you know, that were taught, grew up, you can't smoke weed, drug tested for weed. It's a different era now. I mean, most states don't even drug test for weed anymore.
No.
Yeah.
So that being said,
you
know what I mean? There's these weird stigmas still. We talk about it a lot because, I mean, we all know, I mean, Bub, you know, Adam, I'm sure you know, there's guys that are amazing growers, amazing people, amazing businessmen that still don't want to be known yet because they don't trust the industry, right? Because, you know, it's a new legal industry. They still want to get rated. I mean, we still see people getting rated all the time because of whatever reasons. They're not in compliance. They don't have licenses. They're just straight up illegal. Or they're pushing their numbers. You know what I mean? Now,
100%.
the hemp industry, the CBD industry is blown up down here. How is it in Alaska? Is it about the same, or is it, or are sales mainly THC related because of the laws up there?
No, same. CBD is going hard.
People are loving it.
They just they just put out a set of regulations to initiate, allowing people to have cultivation and manufacturing and retail sale of hemp and CBD here too. So those are all licenses that we've already initiated. And we got down the line too.
Which is awesome. We need more manufacturing going on. That's what the country needs. Me and Brandon talk about this a lot. Where as of a year ago, there was only one manufacturer. Now we're starting to see a lot of these guys coming in to do industrial hemp, to do fibers, to do polys, to do woods, to do all these crazy things that we're now starting to see with hemp material, right? Fibers, cars, airplanes. They're making it all right now, which is amazing stuff. That is an industry I think that we're going to see really boom, especially with, here, at least here in Vermont, we had issues with crops. We had issues with, people growing stuff that was not meeting the 0.03, guidelines. They were coming in hot. You know what I mean? They were, the clones weren't what they thought they were. So there's been substantial issues. So hopefully this will really help kill all that. Now, yeah, what is your guys? Let me ask you a quick question. We usually do a strain of the week on our show, but seeing how you guys have all these crazy strains going, what is your favorite strain and why? Give us a little information about it.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many, man. There's a lot of good ones.
Right?
I don't know. It's hard for me. I don't ever stick with one thing and just smoke it all the time. I like to mix it up,
Right. I hear you. Well, I think a lot of us
don't really like flower is not where I go to get my high. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Now, what's your preferred method to consume then?
I mean, I like to dab. That's mostly what I do. I keep a straw around so I can do dabs conveniently. But yeah, I got a dabber at home that I use. I smoke joints still. I'll smoke joints all the time, but it's just to taste the weed. You know what I mean? Sometimes you smoke some super dank weed where, like, even if you're stoned already, like, you smoke a joint and you'll still feel it. But
no, definitely, it's understandable.
Oh, I think I'm back. Am I back now, guys?
Yep.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, you were froze for a hot minute.
Yeah, my phone died. I thought it would last, but no, it definitely didn't last. But we're still back. I'm back, guys. You didn't lose me for too long. Yes, I mean that seems to be everybody's the hot thing right now is dabs, right? Live rosin dabs, pressing. Yeah, we usually do strains of the week. I mean, for you guys, it must be, like I said, to have that many strains on hand at that many times must be kind of overwhelming almost, and just it's like how do you pick a favorite?
I mean, we got a pretty good. There's probably like 60 or so active strains, like living plants being cycled through right now, and like every 2 weeks we got about anywhere from 8 to 15 strains that get harvested. So it keeps it. I like it. There's always a different, flavors around.
Yep, and you said you guys like to do the pheno hunting, right? So you're back crossing, you're pheno hunting, you're grabbing out your creative moms.
So I have not been here the whole time, and when they first started here, they went bananas and like they popped so many seeds. There was like 500 strains with like 50 phenos of each at least. Most of that's all been sorted down and hunted out to the cuts that are here now.
They're pretty good. So now, if somebody now you guys have a retail store as well, right? Now, are you only selling your products, or is it a store that you?
Oh no, we sell products. Yeah, I mean, we're before like I'm a owner or business owner. Like I'm a connoisseur. You know what I mean? Like I like quality flower, quality concentrates. But I mean, I'm not a snob or nothing. Like I'll still fucking smoke a roach off a soda can, you know what I mean? But I pride myself in knowing the difference and knowing what's good and what's not, you know what I mean? But we try to keep a big variety of the best products we can find around the state, you know what I mean? There's definitely a few manufacturers that are putting out good products and some other growers that are growing. I mean, we definitely carry their stuff for
sure. That's awesome, man. Now, is Alaska more of a craft area, or is it more of a cultivation, a large scale area? It's just in out, in
I
out,
mean,
in
it's
out.
a decent mix. Honestly, there's a pretty good mix. There's a good amount of limited licenses, what they call them, the small licenses, like under 500 square feet is a limited license. So there's a good amount of those guys, just a small, like a mom and pop grow, maybe 4 people or less running the place. But there's also a pretty good selection of like big commercial places that are several thousand square feet. That's 20 to 30 people running the place. And, big crops and outdoor crops in the summer.
Big business.
Yeah, and I mean you could see that reflected in the price of their.
So being in Alaska hasn't deterred anybody from growing up there, right?
Say that again.
Oh. I thought I froze there for a minute. I was just saying it's big business in Alaska. Then I mean, when we think about Alaska, you don't think about like the perfect grow season. You don't think about these ideal climates. You don't think about like when you think about weed, it's always like Jamaica, California, the Emerald Triangles, things of that nature. A lot of people don't really think about Canada being a great aspect. It's more cold and fishing and stuff like that. But there's a great season up there, and there's indoor facilities anywhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the majority of the cannabis cultivation that happens up here happens indoors. There's a small portion of people who utilize the summer season to just get a boost, you know what I mean, and use that extra light. But the majority of growers here grow year round indoors.
I mean, it sounds like you kind of have to. I mean, in any aspect for any business to sustain in this industry right now. So,
sure.
Right. So do you guys also germinate and make seeds, sell seeds as well, or is that just something you don't normally focus on? Too many issues there.
I mean, honestly, it's just not something that we've really done yet. I mean, we definitely have a lot of seeds, but we've not really done any breeding or like, we're not selling seeds for sure.
Right. It's just interesting, now that we're in the season, everybody's scrambling for seeds, they're scrambling for clones, they're trying to get their grows going. I don't think COVID's made a big effect on anybody that's a plant person, because our seasons are limited and we have to do things by certain times, otherwise it just doesn't work. What's the best advice? I mean, what's the best advice for you guys to give to somebody who's thinking about stepping into a commercial industrial scale business from your normal large, we'll say, home grow? I mean, this is where a lot of people think they're good growers until they step in this arena, right?
Right. I mean, the first thing I would tell somebody is like immediately double your operating budget. You know what I mean? Whatever you think you're gonna have to spend, double it. I mean, just like it's super tough. It depends. If you're just a small scale person trying to start out small and grow into something bigger, I mean, my advice would just be to do just that and plan your space so that you could grow into it, but just start small. You can license a 5,000 square foot facility and only grow under 2 lights in it. You know what I mean? You don't have to blow the whole place up right out the gate. You can start small, but in order to do that, you have to be prepared to, pay the rent and pay the bills and keep everything going for a small operation, So I would just say be prepared to pay more than what you think you're going to pay.
Right. I mean, the biggest question, the biggest thing is electricity, right? I mean, we talk about lighting and sources of electricity and how much, people think it's just an easy thing to throw a seed in the ground.
It's like 20 grand a month.
Just on electricity.
Yeah, 20 grand a month.
Now, what are you guys running for lights up there? Are they HPSs? Are they LEDs? Is it a mixture?
Mostly 1,000-watt double enders, but we got a pretty good selection. We got some LEDs. We got some CMHs too. There's it's hard when you have such a big place and you have so many lights. It's hard to just keep everything consistent all the time. A lot of these manufacturers and shit, you try to send them back broken lights, and it takes 3 months to send a light back. So we got to get something to get by in the meantime, and so there's definitely a variety of lights there, but it's the majority of most of the lighting is 1,000-watt double-ended HPS lights.
Now, you find the best results with those lights at the end of the day? I mean, even versus the cost?
Yeah, 100%.
So, I mean, that's a big question at the end of the day. What is it? LEDs? Is it HPSs? Are we doing double-endeds? Are we doing halides?
LEDs are cool for a person who has like deep wallets and isn't worried about their budget. You know what I mean? To set up initially. To set up, if you're not worried about cost of lighting and all that shit, you could dump a bunch of money into some super nice high-speed LEDs and grow some really good pots. But unless you pay, you get what you pay for with LEDs. If you're paying $100 for an LED light, you know what I mean? That's what you're gonna get. A really nice LED is going to cost you anywhere between probably $700 and $1,200 for a light, cover a 4x4 area. You know what I mean? So,
or plant.
It's just a bigger cost up front for a really nice setup. But for what they are, for a 1,000-watt double ender, for the juice that pulls out of the wall, I mean, it's hard to beat. It's really hard to beat.
Yeah, I mean that seems like the question everybody asks. You know what I mean? What do we do for lights? How do we do it? Why is there so many options? I think the LED technology is, is a great sell at first. It's kind of like CBD on Amazon. You know what I mean? You got like cheap LED lights. Everyone's like, yeah, fuck this. And you get some good LED light manufacturers that are actually really good. And then everybody goes back and forth. But man, the power costs on some of these setups can be crucial. Can be amazing. The water bills you guys must be amazing as well. If you have to pay for water, hopefully not. Oh, you did. It's a water payment as well. Now, do you guys also have community agreements that you have to do with your local community, or is that something that you don't have to do in Alaska?
What kind of agreements?
The host community agreements. Like this is one of the big things I've been talking about here out on the East Coast, where some of the tax revenue will go back to the town, like 2-3% from your total profits to go back into your local town for the schools to what they're supposed to do is market and educate with that kind of money, but nothing like that, huh?
Yeah, no, we don't have that.
Just some crazy taxes, huh? I mean, it must be hard to fight a black market when your taxes are that high, right?
Yeah, it's pretty silly. You would think that, I mean, just for me, from the outside looking in, it seems really simple to just tax things as they're sold. You know what I mean? To the public. Like, make a flat rate tax at retail and tax products as they're sold to the public. Like, I don't understand why there would be a tax structure implemented where I'm being taxed on a product that hasn't even gone to market. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're the way you guys tax up is amazing. I mean, for us, I always laugh about it because to me, it's a agricultural product. It's a commodity, right? So why is it any different than corn? Why is it any different than tea? Like I agree that if they want to be like an alcohol system where alcohol is taxed separately, where gas is taxed, and everybody gets their cut. Okay, I get that at some point, but like you said, put it at the end and where the establishments are actually going to be collecting that tax like anything else would be. What you guys have going on is absolutely insane. How that was ever conceived has been amazing. It must make being a grower really hard and that middle-man really profitable.
It's because those rules were written by a guy who wanted to make oil and who had never grown pot.
Right.
100%.
Right. Yeah, Yeah, I mean, obviously,
one of the people who is the heaviest leaders in the implementation of those rules now runs a manufacturing facility that does anything.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the most interesting part when you see those things start happening, where all these guys who are so against cannabis or actually help pass cannabis are now all parts of these cannabis businesses now,
Right.
especially on the federal level stuff. So as far as like, so obviously it sounds like you follow the laws. You're the guy that's on this side of business. Bub, now we haven't heard from him in a minute. What's Bub like to do? What's his normal day consist of? Is he more of the plant guy? Is he the guy that's running the rooms for you guys, or is
No. No, we have growers that run all the rooms. Neither Bub or I are really spent a ton of time in the garden working.
No, it's just done with that stuff, huh?
No, it's just this. There's just too much. There's just too much going on, to stay on top of a business. To try to go in there and grow, I would just be robbing my plants of what their capability is, right? So there has to be a guy out there that's on the phone calling people, making deals, running around, doing this, doing ever, and stomping out brush fires. And then, when Adam came on, I would stand there and talk to Adam, and I'm like, what are you doing? Well, I'm going to tend to my own room. I'm like, yeah, okay. And how long did that last, Adam? It just, yeah, he was dying, and it's like, hey, dude, we got to do this together, and we just have to watch these guys that are doing it, and know where your thing is, because some really crazy things is different growers, same cut, different outcomes, because the plant will genetically drift to its environment. And if one grower is a little different than another grower, that plant genetically drifts a little bit, and it's a different outcome with it. It's fun to watch it. It's fun to know. I know what I can do. I just doing this part of the business. I don't have time to do something like that right now. It would just rob the plant. It would be a total failure, and I'm not into failing.
Yeah, no, I totally can feel for you guys. I mean, even us on our radio show here, it's the same thing. We've had to roll back on certain stuff. Here, I gotta step away for 1 second, guys. Get my charger. I'll be right back.
You're good.
Yeah, we'll be right back. Hold on, Brandon. Keep the flow going.
Keep it going, Brandon.
Oh, real good. I actually have a really good question for you guys, because I'm out here in Arizona, and one of the biggest things out here with growing cannabis is obviously the excessive heat. Okay, during the summer it gets to be like 120 degrees here, and it really doesn't even cool off at night at all. Where it's you can walk outside, it could be 103 degrees, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning. One of the biggest things that does for us is it causes us huge problems in the grow facilities with humidity. Because the humidity is so low here, you literally find yourself battling in between the air conditioning, if you will, okay, and the level of humidity in order to regulate these facilities. So now, obviously, in Alaska, I would assume that extreme cold is something that you guys battle all the time. So how do you combat? Like, what's the easiest way for you guys to really combat that?
I mean, I think in general, it's an easier battle for an indoor grow to fight cold than it is to fight heat. You know what I mean? It's, for one, we're generating some of our own heat. Okay. It's just a matter of. I mean, we do definitely have some massive boilers that heat this facility. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. And there is probably some wasted heat that's not used as efficiently as it could be. But for a place like, if this shop was in the desert and it was 125 degrees here, we would die without massive air conditioning units. You know what I mean? Like, without giant ACs and big humidifiers, you're fucked in the desert.
Yeah.
Right.
Here it's not so bad. Here we can fire up a heater, you know what I mean, and we can use some of our own, the heat from the lights to move it around, and it's a little bit easier to do things in the cold to stay warm than
Yeah, no, for sure. I think every climate has its own unique battle that it fights. There really is no perfect climate. Ideally, I guess.
For sure. I mean,
Is
honestly, in the
there?
wintertime, it's nice. We got cold, fresh air to use to cool things. You know what I mean? We don't have to fight an AC when anything gets hot. We can just suck cold, fresh, clean, filtered air in and cool things down if we need to.
Right.
I mean, that's how it works. It's gonna be very interesting to see. I mean, I want to try something, man. I really want to check it out. I want to try something. My favorite strains, guys. You gotta send me some Alaskan Thunderfuck, man. Like that's one of my favorite strains. It's gotta be a notorious strain for you guys up there, just being in Alaska, right?
I mean, I don't know. A lot of people definitely play, get super into like the name game or whatever.
Yeah.
For me, I'm pretty indifferent. I really don't care what you call it. You know what I mean? I just care what it looks like when it's in front of me, because I don't know. That's just I've heard so many things called so many different names and seen the same name, and you know the weed is completely different, and it's hard for me to just say, oh yeah, this strain is the best strain. It's like, well, who grew it and what's it look like?
Yep. Exactly. How's it grown? I mean, literally, you nailed right in the head. I mean, there's so many different people that are growing good stuff. There's so many different people that are growing garbage. It can be the same strain, really. Right?
Absolutely.
For sure.
So, I mean, do you guys have anything that's going on? Any cool projects that you're working on? Anything that is coming to market soon? Anything cool?
What do you want to tell them about, Bub? I don't know. There's
Jeff and Bub are some pretty amazing things that are getting ready to happen for us, you know.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of amazing things going on. I'm not going to drop any lines to anybody or anything, but there's some cool things that just happen to be coming out on the market here soon. What do you need to talk about? So hopefully we'll get this stuff. We'll be talking to you guys a lot in the near future, guys. But you know, Jeff's an amazing guy. You guys are amazing. The whole Alaskan industry is really cool. You guys sound like you're having a lot of fun playing with this ginormous place. I appreciate you guys showing us what's been going on in there, because not a lot of people understand these facilities and what they look like, right? I mean, either you have the guys that understand it, or you have the guys that, you know, they think a tent's cool, right? And they walk into a room and see plants in those stages. It's amazing. But you know what I mean, right? You gotta show people that room, and they gotta be blown away, right? When they walk around the corner, they're like,
we had a disgruntled employee that turned us into OSHA. And when the OSHA investigator showed up, he was in such awe that he spent 45 minutes just taking it in, because he could not believe that many plants were in one room and in full bud.
Right? Yeah, right?
And no tickets. He was like, no, you guys, he just couldn't believe it. It was, you know, when you put your heart and soul into setting up a facility, it's not like just setting up a backyard little grow and going, you know?
No. And there's a ton of money into it. I don't think a lot of people realize it. Like, we were hitting on like a lot of licensure upfront money, and now, you know, we're talking about monthly expenses, power bills, water bills. Just the cost for equipment to get set up is a substantial amount, and then that's not talking when you get to the extraction side, right?
Well, you know, the money comes in, like, let's just say you run a warehouse for $10,000 a month, and then it takes 10 months to get your license. You just spent $100,000 on a business that you can't even make any money with, you know? You can't do anything to have a license, and there can't be another business in there while you're getting licensed. So, you know, it's a lot of money. I tell people, if you want to get in it and you want to do this for a livelihood, you got to have $1 million liquid. You know, you can do it for less, but the size of our facility, I went through several millions just setting it up, you know, and that was, I'm talking my partner's, you know, 72-year-old, you know, partner putting his retirement and life savings into this, you know, and my other partner, she put everything she had into it to get it to go, and it's still, you know, it still wobbles, but we got her up and floating and taking her out for a cruise, and you know, the company will be good. It's that first 3-year setup, you know, it's all out of pocket. Yep. And the bigger you are, the more it's out of pocket.
Right. I mean, we've talked to a lot of people that have been stuck in that tobacco, especially in Massachusetts, where they were required to get a facility, and then the state dragged their feet. So now these people are paying months and months and months on a facility that they can't operate, they can't run, they can't do anything with. They have to have it to get this license. You know, how long can you sustain that? I mean, now that you guys are actually up and operational, it sounds like things are good. I mean, the market sounds great up there. There must be no problems getting rid of it. I mean, there's no backlog of cannabis in Alaska. Is there like there is in Oregon right now?
Well, I mean, it depends on what it is, but I mean, no, I don't think that there's thousands of pounds sitting around, you know. But there's cheaper weed out there that's less grade that they're still asking, you know, big money for, that is probably available at all times. You know, you can find weed, but finding really good weed, which is top shelf weed, you know, every person thinks their weed's the best, but when you can sit down and actually say that this person's weed is better than mine, that's when you're learning to really grade it and test it for flavor and what the burn is like, what the consistency of the bud is, what it looks like, what it smells like, what it tastes like, you know.
Right. Now, what's the testing like in Alaska? Do you guys are required to have testing?
A what?
The testing is, I mean, it's a little bit of a joke, man. It's kind of crazy. It is what it is. We're super limited. There's only, right now, I think there's 3 operational labs. The third one just came back online. They were closed for, you know, quite a few months, but it's inconsistent. It's all over the place. You know, everybody in the state knows that if you send your samples to this one lab, you'll get 5% higher results. You know, It's just what it is. Silly, man. Silly.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's the power of the green, and in every aspect in some areas. I mean, that's also something we've talked about. I mean, you can trick the lab machines, and you also can, you know, there's a lot of backdoor deals happening that bump percentages so people can sell their products, right?
Right.
Now, is there a dispensary system in Alaska? Like, do you guys actually have a dispensary-based system, or is it just recreational? Really?
We have recreational retail shops only. That's it. There's no medical dispensary.
So there's no medical cards. There's no anything of that nature.
You can get a medical card, but the only thing the card does is says that it's basically like you have to go see the doctor, and the doctor says that you have this reason to be allowed to have cannabis, and then it says if you apply for the plant extension, then it says that you could grow up to 24 plants in your home and 12 in flower at a time, and there's no possession limit in your house. You can walk around with an app. But that's all it does for you is in your home. You know what I mean? It doesn't. And without the card, in your home you can have 12 plants, 6 in flower, 6 in veg, and still walk around with that now. So all the card does essentially is double the amount of plants that you're legally allowed to grow personally in your home. That's it.
And then there's your gun rights, I imagine, as well, right?
Which you'll, at the very least, you'll get a red flag. You know what I mean? You might not get denied, but you'll at least go through that first screening with everybody who's been to API or a mental institution or anybody who's got any kind of crazy charge. They'll at least throw you in that first screening to see if you need to be evaluated further. You know what I mean?
Be evaluated further. a firearm, right? I mean that's been a huge debate here everywhere across the country because of the Schedule 1 issue and scheduling of cannabis, and a lot of people don't understand is that no firearms, right? And you guys are a very a rural redneck state, I would imagine, right?
Oh, dude, everybody carries here. There's yeah.
I've got 2 on me now.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's how it is in a lot of these northern states. So, I mean, a lot of these patients, I mean, it's a huge issue for them, especially here in the States where the card basically takes that right away. They get mad at the cannabis, but really it's a scheduling issue. I mean, we've got the CBD that is starting to be deschedulized and it's been taken off scheduling. So, I mean, that's a free game. But now with THC, still, people are allowed to have a weapon in their home. So it sucks on that note. Now, we're getting ready to wrap up the show here, guys. So I mean, again, let people know who you are, where you're from, and how they can get a hold of you if they want to stop by. I mean, you guys have a retail store right in Fairbanks, correct?
Yes, 2443 on Villa Street on the corner of Kegger and Van Horn.
Nice.
Can't miss it. Got big green lights all over.
Right. Well, I think hopefully we'll get out there soon to Alaska. You guys can visit Jeff. There it is.
Oh.
And there's somebody going to get their cannabis. Now is that the same building that your facility is at? It's the same property?
Separate building, same lot.
All right. That's what we figured. I mean, we're always asking about the intricacies of the laws.
Yeah, we have 2 city blocks right there in the light industrial area. We just kind of sprawled out over all of it.
Yeah. Nice. You guys don't have problems with your neighbors complaining about the smell of cannabis, do you?
Well, so this is funny. We have had the borough bring it up a couple times that, so-and-so was there at this time during the day and they could smell cannabis. And, here's a lucky thing for us is the whole city transfer pump for the sewage sits on this corner of the city block. And I told them, I said, come on down at 9 o'clock in the morning when they upload that tank and we'll all get a good whiff of what's going on,
Right.
And they don't really say too much. They kind of just leave it there.
Right. I mean, what do you do? I mean, can it be an issue? Sure. Should it be an issue? Maybe. But it's no different than living near a cow field, right? I mean, we deal with it in Vermont all the time with the manure.
The transfer station he's talking about is when they come and they pump there, it smells like shit for a square mile. You know what I mean? So anybody who's in this area who's complaining about the smell of weed, they must love the smell of shit, I guess. You gotta smell shit too. Yeah, pretty bad.
Well, I mean, the next question is it the smell of cannabis or is it the smell of burned cannabis? Do they care if people are smoking? Are the cops harassing people that will smoke in their car outside?
That's the cops aren't harassing anybody really. It's complaints to the state agency, the Alcohol Marijuana Control Office. They're the ones who get the complaints about odor and then send you an email that says, hey, we have this complaint that says that you stink and we're going to send an investigator out to look. It's not the police at all.
Wow.
The police don't fuck with nothing. The police, honestly, if the police thought that you had some kind of weed, you were breaking some weed law somehow, they would probably get your information and send it all to AMCO.
Just let them deal with it.
That's what they did here. They caught a guy that was kept getting on an airplane with 2 pounds of weed and a bunch of carts, and that's what they did. They just turned it over to AMCO, and just happened to be that person had a license, but they still, none of that was tagged, and nobody got in any trouble for it.
Super illegal, yeah, hella illegal. But the cops just took them and turned them into the state and said, "Here, this licensed guy that you guys have was trying to leave with all this."
It's unreal, right? I mean, at least there's a regulatory system there that at least it sounds like it checks up on you guys. I mean, we have nothing here in Vermont. There's no regulatory system. There's zero. We have lateral dispensary systems.
It's just grossly overwhelmed and broken and corrupt like everything else.
Well, I was gonna say I don't think any of these governments or even state governments, especially the one legal, were really anticipating the market, where it would go, what it would do, what the amount of funds it would go through, especially for everybody in the market, especially you guys. Like we talked about, no banking, no insurance. None of us really had any coronavirus reliefs because they were going to help us out, right? If you're even the hemp industry people that are legal, right? I mean, hemp's legal. We can grow it. There's a huge market, right? They let they considered dispensaries essential, right? But they can't give them banking. Like what's what I mean? They can't give you guys banking. You know what I mean? Like when you pay your taxes, how are you guys doing that? You guys show up with truckloads of money.
The thing is, we hand over cash, and then the state can use the bank.
Yeah, right. They collect it from you.
Allowed to put that tax money in the bank. The state's not just sitting on a pile of cash.
Right. No, that's a good question, right? Because you consider, I mean, it's drug money if you want to talk about in that stigma relation. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's kind of like the buy-off money.
Yeah, right. Well, literally it is. I mean,
I would have did it way back then instead of hiding all that shit. I would have just paid the money way back then to know that I could just operate in the open. I'd be like, joints over here.
I mean, it's funny how they set it up like this. You know what I mean? Because it's like it literally. I mean, there's long-term advantages. I mean, we don't have to have taxes this high. Can we take it? Can we look at more like the McDonald's mentality more than the steakhouse mentality, where like you're pricing out a lot of the industry, right? Whether they're black market or you're recreational or you're medical, the taxes and these additional costs, they can't compete really, right? I mean, you guys must have a flourishing black market up in Alaska.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? And it's got to be very hard to, compete with them when, the prices are low, they're moving products, and they're taking away a lot of the people that be buying the stuff right from your shop.
Not at all. It's not hard to compete with the black market at all.
No, I mean, it's not hard for us to compete with them.
You just got to have better weed than them.
Yeah, right?
Right? Well, I mean, there's 100%. My brother just hit it right on the head.
Yep.
When we opened our dispensary, 1 gram cartridge was selling for $120, $140. I was buying them wholesale at $55 and selling them at $60 and dropping hundreds of them in a week.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Everybody else got pissed off. Oh, you did this and you did that. And it's like, I didn't do anything except for decide I wanted to move a bunch, and I wasn't greedy as hell. I don't buy people's weed for $2 a gram and sell it for $20 a gram. The growers that we buy from, we buy their weed and we only mark it up like 70%. And then we have a sale that goes on that, so you're not even making your standard 100% markup. It's not being greedy. It's just moving everything at a rate. It's not hard to compete with the black market, and the ones that are crying, because they are right now in this state, they're crying, oh, black market this and black market that. Well, here's the thing. Come to reality, learn how to make really good product, learn how to price your product so it can be sold, and you won't have a problem. But it's really funny that these people come from the traditional market, they get a license, and then all of a sudden they're flipping and telling on everybody that's in the traditional market. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. 2 years ago, you were the dude that was handling my shit. We were homies. And now you're telling on all the homies that didn't get a license? Like, what the fuck, dude?
unfortunately, legality has brought this honeymoon, and now the honeymoon's over in many states. I mean, we've seen it in a lot of these states where these guys are getting ratted out. Business deals are just falling apart. I mean, a lot of it's like the stress that you guys were talking about, handling this huge output of money for so many months before you actually see your profit come back to you. That puts a stress on a lot of relationships and the businesses. And then, then the competition comes back because, man, let's talk about this for a minute. We're all old school street hustlers, right? So it's not like the street hustle has gone away and we just put suits on. We're businessmen now, right? We're all still street hustle each other. You know what I mean? So when we all became friends, we're all trying to help each other out. And the next thing you know, everybody looked at it. There's like, there's only room for 1 or 2 people, and there's 10 of us in the room. When the industry is so fucking big that if we all just work together, we'd probably go way further. You know what I mean? But like you said, there's a huge amount of greed, and the greed is like right now. Like, I want to get paid today. There's no long run. There's no long vision. There's no business that they're trying to build or foundations.
Well, and a lot of that too is that it's just about the money. Like, they're just in it for the dollars. You know what I mean? There's really no concern about creating a quality product or caring what's being consumed. Or, a lot of the people that own businesses in this industry don't even consume cannabis. Mm-hmm. They don't know what good or bad is.
Yeah,
right.
They just know to call you up and say, "Yo, I'll take a pound."
Well, it's funny. I mean, it's funny you mention that because there's these huge investment firms and Ianthus's and all these huge companies that, dude, they their owners don't smoke cannabis. They've never smoked cannabis before. They're just commodity guys. They're just money people, and it's a business, right? So they're just in it for the next 5 years till the bubble pops, and they're going to be on to the next hot market item that's going to pop out, right?
The thing is you try to hustle pianos, but you don't know anything about a piano. It's kind of hard to hustle that piano.
Yeah, true. Exactly. You know what I mean? But you see these guys do it, and that's why we brought up Ianthus a little bit earlier, because we're starting to see these markets are crumbling around cannabis, but we're seeing the sales numbers are way up. Like, people are buying it. Like, the businesses are going, dude, we're having a great time. We're out in the corner smoking weed. It was like 15 years ago when the guy pulled up on the corner and you just threw him a bag. You know what I mean? Hey, how you doing? And like, only about 5 million of us thought we were smooth doing that all across the world. Like, no one's ever thought about it, But now it's like, that's legit. It's legal. You can go walk in a bank with a mask on, right? Like, in gloves. Some states with a gun. You know what I mean? It's amazing to see the world we're living in. Now, guys, let me ask you another question. This is just we're running out of time here, but like, we're starting to see a lot of the psychedelics get legalized in other states. Mushrooms, Colorado, we're talking about injections and all these crazy things. How do you guys feel about the psychedelic market? Is that a market that you think is going to be
coming right behind the cannabis market?
I mean, it seems like it's coming right up behind it, and no one's really talking about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of companies that have like tried to start some psychedelic, institution or something, but there's not been any real momentum behind it or nothing yet. But I mean, it's only a matter of time.
Cabenzas for everybody.
Yeah, right. I like these little oil, I like this cannabis oil capsules I see that have little mushrooms in them. So it's a perfect. But I mean, it's an interesting question. I have a friend that's been microdosing for like 2 months now, and he's like, dude, he doesn't dab anymore. He barely smokes anymore. He's like, it's been life changing for him. So it's an interesting conversation when you talk about it.
Yeah, no, psychedelics are amazing. I'm super pro psychedelics for sure.
Mm-hmm. Right? Why not? Fuck it. Make it all legal. You just gotta do that. So, all right, guys. Well, that's gonna be it for today's show. I think we're running out of time. We're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna end it. It's gonna be perfect. Bub, give everybody a shout out. Adam, give everybody a shout out. Let everybody know who you are, how to get a hold of you guys again. And hey, man, thank you guys for coming on the show. I'm sure we'll be talking again here in the future, hopefully, and a lot more. I can't wait to get up there. Me and Brandon get up there. You better have some good cannabis for us.
Oh, we'll have the most amazing cannabis and the most amazing barbecue you've ever had.
Yes, that's what we like to hear.
I like that.
Oh yeah, you like to go fishing?
Love it, dude. Love fishing.
Yeah. We'll take you. We'll take you fishing.
Yeah, man. Well, hopefully we'll be up there soon. We have a lot of business to talk about, as we all know, which we'll be announcing here shortly. We're going to get Bubba and Jeff on the show here in the next couple of weeks to make our big announcements once everything's in place. So we're excited about that. Again, guys, thank you. I can't wait to be up there. I've heard nothing but great stories about Alaska. Guys, check these guys out. You can easily find them. They're all over Facebook, Instagram. They're very easy to find. Again, tell everybody where they can find you guys.
Find us everywhere. I'm on Facebook ban though for 70 days straight.
70, huh? That's a good one.
Repeat offender.
Come down to the shop. It's Q443 Arvilla Street on the corner of Pegger and Van Horn in Fairbanks, Alaska. We're open from 8 a.m. to midnight every day.
Excellent.
8 a.m. to midnight. I love it, guys. 7 days a week. Thank you guys for popping on. We're going to peace out. Guys, in the next few weeks, we're going to have Matt Bubba Burger on, Bubba Kush. We're going to have MTF Jeff Wells on. We have the Cryo Cure guys coming on. We have a list of great people coming.